Good morning and welcome to our first live event from Virtual Euritier. I'm Emma Penny, I'm Managing Director of Feedinfo, and I'm delighted that so many of you have joined us this morning. This is obviously our first event of Euritier Week. We have a series of them going on this week. These are designed to be snapshots of what's happening in the market. So expect them to last from 10 to 15 minutes and to give you an overview of what's happening. So throughout the week, we have Carolina today talking about what's happening in Europe. We have a couple of sessions about Delphi, which is our strategic product on supply and demand. We will be talking about M&A in the sector, about the wider commodities market, and also about what's happening in China. And you can find out more about what's happening this week at feedinfo.com. And we'd be delighted to see you at those events. But first of all, I'm delighted to welcome Karolina Zagrodna to talk with us today. And Karolina is our senior analyst at Feedinfo and is going to be talking about what's happening in the European market. Now, we are very happy to take questions from you, but would ask you to email them in and we will send a response to you as well. And any questions you have can be emailed to us at events@feedinfo.com and we'd be delighted to hear from you. So, without much further ado, Karolina, over to you. Really, this has been a really very interesting start to the year and the beginning of the year. It's really been kind of quite volatile and exciting, I think, for the European feed additives market. Can you take us through what's been happening?
Yes, so good morning, Emma. Good morning, everyone. Yes, indeed, the amino acid, vitamins, whole feed additive market in Europe has been very interesting and very volatile indeed. So traditionally, the beginning of the year, January, February, is usually quite volatile. And this is because China, where, as we know, most of the amino acids capacities is located, celebrates Chinese New Year. So for a few weeks, the country is shut for business. There's no material coming in and out. So that's always tricky and prices tend to increase during this time. This year, we have the new year a bit later, starting this week, but the markets have been quite active since January, especially lysine and threonine, where demand is quite high from Europe. So just to give you an example on a scale what's been happening, lysine HCl, the international brand, because we distinguish between Chinese and non-Chinese origin, the price has risen in Europe by 30% in January alone. And it's been the highest in 8 years based on what our historical data at Feedinfo says. So that's quite a big deal, as you can imagine. The Chinese brand is a bit lower because producers from there tend to lower their prices to compete with the market share. But there is not much material, so European consumers can only rely on more expensive prices. And sources are telling me they haven't seen anything like that for all those years working in the industry. So it's been quite exciting.
Yeah, exciting to report prices as they're happening. So what are the main reasons for such big price movements?
Yes, there are a few reasons that coincided together. Just to give a bit of a context, the last few years, prices for the main amino acids like lysine, threonine, have actually been decreasing, and this is because global capacity in general that we have overcapacity, so it always exceeds demand. And paired with the African swine fever that affected production and consumption in China, that's also depressed prices. And then since last year, the COVID pandemic. However, the last few weeks or months, prices were supported by tight supply. And the main reason is global shipping problems and lack of containers coming from China, and therefore delays that.
Oh, Karolina, we appear to have lost your volume. Nope, you just unmute yourself. Slight technical hitch there. That's just, if you just try to unmute yourself, I think there's a button at the bottom of the screen. Nope. It's at the bottom of the screen on Livestorm, on the one in front of you. Should be. Oh, I'm being told to right. Apologies for this slight technical hitch. This is one of the issues I sometimes have with going live online. It's good to be able to bring you live content as we would when we were at Euritier. But I think everybody from the last year will know that sometimes things go a little awry online.
Hi, anyway, can you hear me now?
Hi, Carolina. Welcome back. Yes, we can hear you perfectly.
So I was fearing this.
Don't worry, it's fine. I was just explaining, it's one of the problems that I think we all have had during the year with things like this, and online meetings and the internet. It's never a total fail-safe. So, but anyway, yes. You were telling us about the sort of main reasons for such big price movements. I think you were talking to us about what was happening in with regards to container freight. Issues.
Yes, exactly. So not only we had delays caused by, well, also the restrictions related to COVID, so longer waiting times at ports, even shortages of staff, more regulations, stricter regulations, but also extremely high ocean freight prices. So sources said they would double or triple compared to last year. So that's a huge factor. Another one is higher cost of production. Corn prices, the key raw material for fermentation of amino acids in China, has been the prices have been increasing since the beginning of last year and still are quite high. Higher energy costs in China, so producers would either reduce their output, they would increase their prices, and that would also find its reflection in Europe. Mm-hmm. Apart from that, this year is specifically hard because consumers in China are stocking up because there were new outbreaks of coronavirus in certain places. So government reacted very quickly this time and put those areas in lockdown. So there is no movement already. So they've been stocking up, doing inventories before the holidays and after. So the demand is high in China. There is less material being exported. So that's mainly the key reasons. However, the market is always divided, and that depends on the spectrum where you are. So if you're an end user, a buyer, or a trader, you obviously benefit from lower, higher prices. So some big buyers have been telling me that is just a sentiment. It's short-lived. We need to look at hard facts. We can't just speculate. And he said, if the market is so tight, how come he's getting offers to buy? So it cannot be that bad. It's not justified. And he compared the situation to last year, when COVID was a new thing nobody knew anything about. There was no material coming in or out of China as well, and prices still have not reached such high levels. So it's an interesting opinion. We need to be careful to the way we report on things, and consumers need to be careful and well informed, which we are trying to do. But it is certainly exciting to report on now.
And have the vitamins markets been equally as dynamic?
Maybe not as dynamic, but also quite interesting. Most of vitamins are quite stable in Europe because consumers seem to be well supplied, well covered for now. But one interesting is the vitamin E, where pretty much everyone agrees the supply is very tight. There is a reduced amount of offers out there for immediate deliveries for spot. And all eyes are on the new production facility, a joint venture between European DSM and Chinese company Nenter. It's called Yumente. That's going to be a new vitamin E oil production. So that facility was supposed to start ramping up in December, but it will now only start April, May. And it will take time to reach a full output of, I believe, 160,000 tons per year of vitamin E oil. So that's an uncertainty. We don't know when this capacity will be offered to the market. It might be that the first half of this year will be quite tricky. There is also on the regulatory side, China has imposed a duty on M-cresol, which is a material used by Chinese companies to produce vitamin E. That's gonna find its way into a production cost for those producers. That's another factor that could impact prices. And then every other factor in terms of logistics that will also impact vitamin E. So that's a product to watch out for, and everyone has quite a firm outlook for this product in the coming weeks and months.
Okay, so sounds like quite an interesting time in the vitamins markets as well. So obviously, as an IOSCO compliant business, we are reporting on the prices as they happen now. But how? I mean, have you? I know you talk to people in the market all day, every day. So what's their sentiment? How long do they expect the current situation to last?
Well, I think we will have a quiet period now between the 11th, 17th of February when China is on holidays, a bit of time for them to restart production. So quiet till March, but in terms of stabilizing and for prices to come back to predict which direction prices will go, everyone is saying the problems with shipping and tight supply will last way until, well, half of Q2 at least. So it's not going to go away soon. It's not going to stabilize soon. But we will experience a quiet period now for the next few weeks.
So the sort of market outlook, you think, for the coming weeks, maybe slightly quieter, but next few months, what factors do you think are the most important ones for people to watch out for?
So everything that I've mentioned in terms of the drivers will obviously be very important. Everyone will be curious to see how the Chinese production and demand develops. There have been a few new cases of African swine fever in China, but if that's not, it doesn't escalate and the consumption keeps increasing, that could have impact not only on how much material comes to Europe, but also because China was relying on imports of pork from Europe. Once their consumption recovers, they will need less of that. So that might act on consumption in Europe in a longer term. Consumption in general in Europe and how countries deal with losing of lockdown restrictions. That's going to be very important. Capacity, any unexpected maintenance work at the plants. But yes, pretty much China is the main driver, and whatever happens there in terms of supply and demand will dictate European prices. You cannot really talk about Europe without mentioning that. Yes, but it's hard to say. Whoever would have the answer for that would be very rich. So it's
yeah, it's a very interesting time in the market, and I know that your colleague Yoki will be talking about what's happening in China specifically on Friday in our Euritier Live. But I think thank you for that look at what's happening in the markets, Carolina. That's been really useful. And I know that you and your colleagues have been sort of working very hard and talking to lots of people in the markets about actually what is happening at the moment, because it's really interesting time, I think, for everybody. I think, as I mentioned at the start, we're very happy to have anybody email us any questions at events@feedinfo.com, and we will respond to you. And as I said, we've got other events going on this week, and we'd be delighted if you come to join us. We are going to be talking about Delphi, which is our strategic supply and demand product, about M&A in the sector tomorrow, with Simon Duke, who's Feedinfo's editor-in-chief. We have a commodities update from Mike Verdon, who is our editor-in-chief of AgriMoney, which is a sister product to Feedinfo. He's going to be talking about what's happening in the corn and the corn and wheat markets and so on, which are really facing interesting times at the moment too. And then, of course, Yoki will be talking on Friday about the market in China. So I think there should be lots to find out about, and I hope that you will all come and join us for our next sessions during the week. I think I understand that this session will be emailed to everybody who has joined us or signed up for it. I hope you've enjoyed it and it's given you a snapshot of what's happening in the markets. Again, please email us any questions, and thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Carolina, for your input. It's been great.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.